Alright, we got some update on the canoe building. Underneath this picture of the sailing ship, we've got a new shelf running along the wall here. That's about 16 feet, about a foot wide. Decided to go ahead and get some of the strips out of the way. Most of this is cedar over here, and some of it's some strips that broke. A lot of these strips that I had some knots in them. You can kind of see there. Every once in a while, if they go all the way through, these strips won't hold together. This has been a little bit of a frustration, but I feel certain we'll be able to use some of these strips in shorter sections later. So that's nice to kind of have that out of the way. After putting that up, kind of took an inventory of where we're at with how many strips we had, and kind of came to find out that I was probably going to be short. So I went down to Lowe's, and I'd gotten basically cedar deck planks, which are 1x6 by 16, and they're kind of curved on the edges because they're deck planks, and it also causes the strips to be, at least those ones that were over on the shelf, are about 1 inch wide. And I'm finding, as I'm getting up on the curves of the chine, that it's really difficult to bend these, and so I'm going more to want to be closer to the 3/4 inch that most people recommend as far as the size on the strips. I went to Lowe's. We found a beautiful piece, still of the deck planking, but just almost completely not free. And we ran these through the table saw last night. As you can see, I've got probably another 13 or 14 completely clear, just no knots at all, 16-foot lengths. Now, obviously, these aren't on the new shelf over here, but I kind of want to keep them separate, because what we did is we ended up splitting that 1x6 in half, ripped it in half, and then took off about 1/4 inch off the edges of it, so that now these strips that we've got here are much closer to this 3/4 width. So 1/4 inch thick, but then 3/4 wide, I guess you'd call it. I also had gotten some #1 pine, just some 8-foot section, and there's a little bit of it here, and I'd ripped that, and this was real clear too because it was #1 stuff. I've actually scarfed a couple of those together, which was a bit of a learning experience in its own. And I now have, just kind of for accent, I'm getting close to where the water line should be, 1 pine strip now installed. And you can see, maybe you can see right here, there's a scarf joint, and I don't think it's going to be terribly noticeable. I got it glued together pretty smoothly. One of the things I'm running into, though, is as I'm coming over these curves, we'll be able to see it here, I'm trying not to use staples, and it's really difficult to make these turns coming up on these hard curves. And you can see here that's wanting to pull away just a little bit, and I'm tempted to throw a staple in there, and I still might, just to try to hold that up there against the frame. And we're getting into some pretty complex curves here, so that it's difficult to get it to bend down the way you want it to come around the curve there in the middle of the boat, and then to come back here and then be more horizontal as you get to the end. But we're getting it bent pretty well, and I think you can see we still have some pretty fair curve on here. A lot more clamps, and I made an awful lot more of these little plywood cleats that I use to, when I'm gluing these strips down, to hold them up against the frame and hold them fair. So I don't know how many strips we are up now, 8 I guess, and just constantly learning more and more about this. Even things like down here on the inner stem, unless you got this kind of trimmed off of here, you can't get this board to lay fair coming into the end. So we've got some of the strips are vary in thickness just a little bit, and boy, it sure doesn't take much. And you can see that you're I'm going to have some sanding to do. If there's one good thing about that, when I look over and through what will be the inside of the canoe, it's pretty smooth over here. So I can imagine that will be more difficult standing because of the way the curve is convex on the inside, or maybe that's concave on the inside. It's one of the two. Anyway, so we'll do some planing and sanding, obviously, on the outside of here once we get the rest of this put together. But still just working away at it and learn something new every day. I can imagine a second canoe or kayak might be a slightly better job just because of everything that I'm learning as we're going through this. But overall, fairly well pleased with the way it's going. All right, more later.